Hi everyone, and welcome to our first Access to Text for 2022. I'm John Kennedy, and I'll be running you through the session today. I'm the new Head of Solutions here at Access4, so please join us in going through everything that we are discussing today. So what are we discussing today? I'll give a quick Access4 overview for those who are new to Access4, but also a rehash for those who have been with us for a while, just in case there's anything that you've missed as well. We will quickly go through the Telstra CLI side of things and what the changes there are going to potentially impact and do to us as UCaaS providers within the Australian environment. We'll also quickly talk about the UJET Launch and what that looks like from a technical point of view quickly. We'll also discuss a couple of other things we want to do there. I'll quickly give a Webex migration update and a little bit of information there about what's going on with Webex and what needs to be done from a partner point of view. We'll also do some quick SASBOSS updates presented by Mitch for the porting order form, the porting form and the number ordering form. And then after that, we'll have a quick question and answer session if any of you have any questions around the stuff that we discussed today. So why is Access4 unique within the industry? We've made some significant investments in the business in terms of resources and products that we're building within our portfolio with best of breed solutions, as well as hiring really highly skilled staff within Access4 to make sure that we have the backing to be able to support all of those best of breed solutions that we're bringing into this, the company. The solution itself is backed by carrier grade technology. Our tier 1 products are integrated through a single pane of glass called SASBOSS. SASBOSS is a self-service portal which allows for zero touch provisioning across multiple tier 1 products. Due to Access4 providing all of these solutions from the cloud, it allows for our partners and their clients to not need to have a large CapEx when building a new unified communication solution. Through our platform, you are able to utilize our integrated invoicing to make it simpler for you as a partner, as well as ensuring there is no revenue leakage from your billing. And I know that can be a difficulty with a lot of unified communication solutions. We also provide local support within Australia and New Zealand for all of our partners. This is backed by our leading product team who ensure our technical and product development is second to none. And we continually strive to be the best UCaaS provider for our partners through innovation and product development. This is done by listening to and working with our partners within Australia and New Zealand. Within the platform, there are extra tools that provide reporting and analytics, such as iCall Suite by Tolling. We can also integrate our solution with MSP tools, such as ConnectWise, with many more to come. And lastly, we are a channel-led business, so we work with you as our partners because your success is our success, and that's important. So onto the Access4 platform. Our core sits on a Cisco BroadWorks solution, which a lot of tier 1 carriers use. So that solution is in a redundant cluster. It's a geo-redundant cluster as well, so it's across a couple of cities within 2 different data centers. It also has multiple tier 1 data peers to make sure should one data peer have an issue, we can fail over to a different data peer, and that goes across the 2 data centers as well. And the same thing goes for our voice peers. We've got multiple tier 1 voice peers to ensure that should one voice peer have an issue, we can roll over to a different voice peer and we can continue to operate. And that allows us to have, the 5 nines across our solution to ensure our partners and their customers continue to be able to operate in their business. Security first is a very big importance around voice because voice is mission critical. So we need to ensure that everything that we do is in a secure way and with security thoughts first and foremost in the way that we operate to ensure that everything is secure as we move forward. SASBOSS, and move on to SASBOSS. SASBOSS is our single pane of glass. It has the ability to do very simple configuration. You can, set up one phone. You can set up a direct in dial. You can do porting through the system. You can utilize the billing engine. You can go through and quickly automate an IVR, a contact center. So it has a lot of capability within it as a single pane of glass, and it's very simple to use and it's got lots of information in it within, there's the walk me parts, there's the partner resource center that you're able to go through and find information to be able to utilize this system as a partner. We also have multiple integrations with things such as Xero, Salesforce, ConnectWise, and many other applications that allow us to be able to integrate through APIs or as a solution that we utilize. So now on to the reasons why we're here. Telstra CLI changes. So what I'm going to go through today are why are these changes happening? So why are Telstra making these changes and the industry as a whole? How the Telstra change and the industry changes will affect the porting process, mainly the Telstra change. How the Telstra change itself will affect your customer's experience when porting away from Telstra. And what planning will be needed to mitigate these potential issues that will occur due to these changes that Telstra are making to their CLI. So why are these changes happening? So I'm sure all of us have received a phone call from a fake number over the last couple of years, especially during COVID, where it's someone that isn't actually who it says it is, and they might call up and they might ask you to do something on your computer or ring another number or give them information that's personal. Same with the texting side of things. I'm sure many of us have had those DHL ones where we've got a text that says our delivery is running late when we haven't actually got anything delivered. So that's really sort of the crux of the situation. And the problem that's occurring from that is a lot of people are being caught out by phishing scams or crypto scams where they'll lock their PCs, issues will occur, and then there's other security risks associated with that, data leakage if that happens within a commercial environment, and all those sort of things. Excuse me. So the telcos have been coming up with a plan to fight it, to make sure that it stops happening because it's impacting them as well. So, and this is by locking down the CLI capabilities of their infrastructure, but also how they'll communicate with other partners or other external carriers into the future. So I thought it important that I'm talking about spoofing a call. A lot of people potentially on this call won't understand what spoofing a call looks like and how it actually functions from a normal perspective. So I thought I'd start off by sort of having a quick diagram, a high-level diagram about how that works. So say, for example, we've got a fake caller. Let's call that fake caller Graham. I don't know why, but supposedly all Grahams are evil. Sorry if there's any Grahams on this call. And Graham is calling poor old Amy on her mobile. So what Graham has to do there is Graham sends a VoIP call or text over the internet. That could be over a local network if he has a spoofing system in his local environment, but to a VoIP spoofing service. And that VoIP spoofing service will edit his calling number ID to a different number. And then what it'll do is it'll send that fake caller ID to his or to Amy's carrier. So that's the receiver's carrier. So that fake caller ID, say, as an example, it will be Telstra. Graham's call will go with the fake caller ID to Telstra, which will then forward the call on to Amy as that fake caller ID. And it could be a text or a call to the receiver, which then means that Graham has direct access to Amy through a fake call or a fake text. Now, what is the impact of that spoofing to Amy as an example? So end user security side of that could be that Amy gets a phone call and she answers the phone call, and Amy, thinking that, lots of people are honest, might get a phone call saying, hey, I'm from Microsoft. You have an issue with your machine hasn't been patching properly. I need to jump on and just fix it. And then, they might download a Trojan horse to a computer, which then allows them access to that computer, which might be her work computer or a computer she uses for work. And then they're able to get, you know, data information that she might have her OneDrive on there or other things. And they're able to get all the information. Other than that, she might log onto her banking through her website, and they're able to get all the information for her banking while she's doing that. Same sort of thing from the phone perspective. So that could be a text to their phone. They click on the link, you know, from DHL or from Australia Post, and they go in, that drops a payload onto their phone. That person has installed a Trojan horse onto that phone. They're able to then go and look at their banking details, so look at their texts, grab all their contacts information, look at their emails. So it's really a big data and security and privacy issue for end users. The other part of that is voicemail could be compromised. So what they can do is, say, for example, if they ring your Vodafone's the only one that I know the number of, 101 for Vodafone, they might pretend to be you. And if you don't have a security code on your voicemail, the call will go through and go straight in, and they'll be able to retrieve your voicemails. Now, that may be nothing to most of us, but to some people, that could be a very big compromise, because that could be corporate data, that could be personal data about stuff that's come through from your doctor or from your friends or whatever. So it can be quite jarring, the information that they could potentially get a hold of due to that. Now, in the commercial sense, carriers can lose customers due to these concerns around security and spam. Now, you know, if users are having these issues, you know, their data's been stolen from the bank or they've had heaps of money stolen, they're going to change carrier, because they're going to go, carrier's no good, right? And they'll want to change, which then means that all the carriers are suffering revenue loss to customers switching between carriers. And that's not to say that all carriers are going to be any better than the last carrier they're on. So that means that they're going to be switching a lot. So that then costs carriers a lot of money, and that is a real problem. They'd rather they switch because they were disgruntled than the fact that they're switching because of something that's out of their control. So of course, they want to do something about it. So what are the carriers doing about it? The industry has been working on the problem for quite some time. So it's been a big issue, as we know, for the last few years. So carriers internationally and locally in Australia are really working together to combat the problem of spam issues. And what they've built is they've built a bit of industry code, and that industry code is C661:2020, reducing scam calls. So most carriers will be basing their information on this industry code. A lot of them will be aligning to it. Telstra were meant to be bringing these changes in from March 2020. And I'll be going through what those changes are over the next few slides. So how are Telstra changing the CLI process? So for them, Telstra have decided that so if it's a Telstra-owned CLI, so a CLID, so say, for example, your mobile number would be, and you're with Telstra, that would be a Telstra-owned CLI. If anyone within Telstra uses that number and then calls, it will still work. So they'll be able to still do that within the network. But if they come from, say, an Optus, and they use your number to then go into Telstra, Telstra recognise that that's one of their numbers and it's coming from Optus. Why is it doing that? And they will reject that call. The only way to allow that to happen is from an accepted porting request. So as it says in the next point, the reason why that's important is because that will impact your porting requirements and how long that takes, and Fastport, how Fastport works and how that will be able to forward numbers into Telstra as a carrier. So just on the changes and what that will actually look like once the call has been, the spoofing has been stopped by the carriers. So again, back to our good old fake caller Graham and his poor little receiver Amy. Graham will make that VoIP call or text over the internet to the VoIP spoofing service. That VoIP spoofing service will do the same thing again as it did before and send the fake caller ID to Amy's carrier, say it's Telstra. Then they would say, sorry mate, denied. Well, you can't get through because you're not from our environment and you're not a trusted source to be able to send this call, this ID to Amy, which then means that the next step of the chain is killed off. So Amy doesn't receive that fake caller ID on her phone. It also means that the call or text that Graham can send is no longer able to happen. So that means that it's stopped. Everything that can possibly get to Amy means Amy can trust the carrier a lot more. Means she'll feel like answering a lot of those calls that she doesn't know anymore because it's not going to be someone who's dodgy. So what will the new process, or what would the process for porting look like? It won't be too different to what's currently happening. So what you'll do is you'll submit your port first. You'll then select your number to import. You'll provision your service as per normal. Now, this is probably the bits that sort of change it slightly. So if calls are to be made now, you want to set the caller group line ID as a dummy number. So it's not the number that you want to utilize. It has to just be a different number for the time being, because you won't be able to allow that number to go into Telstra as it is, because they'll reject it. Then once you've done all this, you'll have to wait up to about 10 to 18 business days. Now, it's really dependent on how long the process it goes through, getting accepted by us, getting accepted by our carrier, then getting accepted by Telstra. So that can take a bit of time. And then once that's accepted, pretty much the rest of the process is the same from a process point of view. But what are the impacts to fast port and porting? So the porting information will be really critical. So you need to get that right. But the other thing you will need to do is make sure you allow enough time for the porting process to run. If you don't allow enough time for that to happen, then fast ports won't be possible, because we have to wait till Telstra accept that. So from a fast port point of view, Telstra will have needed to have accepted the port. So that means it has to have gone through us, through the receiving carrier, and then to Telstra, for Telstra to then accept that port. And that can take that 10 to 18 days being able to do that. Once they've accepted that port, it'll take up to 48 hours. It may take longer, but usually it's up to 48 hours. It can be quicker, but 48 hours is probably a reasonable amount of time. And then once that's been accepted and that has occurred, fast ports will then be able to forward that number on through Telstra. Whilst it's a bit of a problem, it's really important to understand that part, because that's probably the main part that's changed. All the rest of it was just to sort of give you that picture of what it looks like and how it's doing that. So I've got a bit of an update. So this only happened late last week. So Telstra have actually delayed the change. So it was meant to be occurring right now. So that was why it was important for us to get that into this access to text. There is no date as of yet for the change in implementation when Telstra will do that. So Telstra are going to decide that date. And once Telstra decide that date, they'll notify the industry, and the industry will have 30 days to get whatever they need to do on their side of things up and running and ready for Telstra's side of things. So we will have 30 days notice to be able to make the change, but we will also notify everyone once we understand when that change is occurring. That change may look the same as what it does now. It may look different to what it does now, but that is currently how it stands as we understand it. So we are just waiting on Telstra to come back to us. So on to UJET. We have launched UJET within Australia. So UJET is a new form of contact centre. So we've had version 1 contact centre, which is people just calling in, getting queued, taking forever to get an answer. I'm sure we've all sat on those phone calls before. We've sat for 2 hours waiting for someone to answer, from Microsoft or Cisco or somewhere else. And of course, version 2 was a lot more sort of, you're able to email in and get email responses from tickets. You're able to phone in. Sometimes you could chat depending on the provider. That's sort of version 2. And version 3 is more around the customer experience and making the customer experience much better, making them feel like they're actually involved in the conversation. There are things like the web chat. It pushes all the information into the CRM, the app that you can actually create. So if a client has an app, they're able to integrate this into the app, and the person's able to select through the IVR while they're utilizing the app. They're able to send photos through the app to the agent, and the agent can see it live in their CRM and be able to act on that information immediately, which then leads, of course, to a much better customer experience. So what are the technical benefits? So this is a high-level view of what the technical benefits of UJET are. There's a real sort of new simplified web management. Now, that may not seem like a great technical benefit, but it is very simplistic to move around and be able to use from a technical point of view and be able to see what you need to do. And it sort of spells it out fairly simply. And you'll be able to go in, make some changes and understand what those changes are fairly simplistically, and it'll show you live on the screen. Queues have a visual representation. So when you're setting up queues, you'll be able to see where they step out. And say, for example, if we put a forward on option 1 to another line or another queue, you'll be able to see that information on the actual queue there. So it's really great in that respect. Also, if you're setting up queues for, say, for example, you've got a VIP customer that needs to call in and you want them to hit option 1, you'll be able to see that information live on the menu structure. And it makes it a lot easier to then troubleshoot issues that are occurring as well further down the track. Simplified user pages. So you'll be able to see what users have access, what developers you've got that have access to the system, who the admins are, who's able to make changes, who's not able to make changes, who's just an agent, and what pages they have access to as well. And also, really important, integration through API to multiple CRMs. So currently that is the list of CRMs that are on there at the moment. There is also an option for a custom CRM. UJET are also open to adding more CRMs to the solution. We are talking to them about utilising a lot of CRMs that managed services providers use. So most of US partners will use. So things like ConnectWise, AutoTask, those sort of things. And they're really interested in looking in that. And of course, anything that your customers are using that they might need to integrate into, they're definitely interested because they don't want to hold any data on their environment. They want to make sure all of it goes into the CRM that your clients are using or yourself are using. So from here, we want to sort of look at planning a technical sales session and getting everyone to be able to understand the real technical benefits of the back end of UJET and how you can have that conversation with a technical leader within your clients and your customers. And it's purely focused, it's not a sales session at all, it's purely focused on the capabilities and functions from a technical perspective. So again, so you can have that technical conversation with a technical leader. So we've got a quick poll now. I think Jasmine is going to flick up a quick poll on just, would you be interested in a UJET technical sales session? So please click on that link, click on yes or no inside there and let us know. Okay, I'll let you all answer that while that's going on. I'll continue. So Webex migration update. So communicator, I'm sure most of us on this call will know, and if you don't, communicator, which is the communicator for Broadsoft, is being replaced by Cisco Webex. Communicator's planned end of support is from the 1st of April. It was the 1st of March, but it's now the 1st of April. If any issue, so the current problem at the moment is if any issues occur with communicator after this date, you will be advised to move to Webex because Webex is where we're migrating to and making sure that is the move forward. So from the 1st of April, if any issues occur, you will need be asked Webex is the best solution there because there will be no more updates to communicator. Currently, when communicator is started, most of your users or customers will be asked to upgrade to Webex. Webex is in the back end already been set up for all of those people who use communicator or are listed to be using communicator. Even if they're not using communicator, they will be able to set up Webex and log on if they've got a communicator license. The other concern that we have with these dates is that Cisco may decide to turn communicator off at any time after the mentioned date. So at the moment, we've asked for an extension. We've got that extension to the 1st of April. There is no guarantee that we will get a further extension. So it is important that we work on that. If you have any concerns, please let us know and we can talk to you about that. But look, that is the way that we have to run it because that is the information that we are getting from Cisco. So please let us know if you have any questions about that. So on to our SASBOSS update demonstrations. So these are both presented by Mitchell, or Mitch, the porting form and the number ordering form. So these are both videos that should play sound, and we'll go from there. So I'll just start the first one, which is the porting form.
Today we're announcing some changes to the porting order request form within SASBOSS. This can still be accessed via the customer's enterprise directly or via the DID numbers and either the inventory or porting orders buttons underneath that. From here, you'll notice there is a bit of a change. Instead of being the one-page form that it was previously, it is stepped into a few different steps along the process, just to try and make it a bit more streamlined to run through and making sure that you are gathering all the correct information. If we get to the stage from the customer's enterprise, it will pre-select that in here for you. Otherwise, you will just need to select which enterprise or which customer we are doing this porting request for. And underneath that is any additional contacts who need to get the information. As whoever puts in this request is the one who'll get the emails. However, this will be any secondary emails that need to get the updates as well. Once we fill that in, we click next on this, and it's asking what kind of porting type we want to do. So whether Australia or New Zealand, and then what kind of number range we are talking about with that porting order. When you select, depending on the country you select, it will change the order at the bottom, as 13, 1300 and 1800 numbers are not available in New Zealand. If you select New Zealand, it does block those out, and same with 0800 numbers for Australia. So we will just do a DID standard range. If we click next on that, it is asking the standard information that we have seen previously. So the account name, so the customer's name, the existing provider, so who the losing provider is for the service, as well as the account number for the service as well. Both these will be available on the invoice you gather from the customer. Next down is where you'll upload that invoice to the system as well. Same way as before, once you are in here, it's just a matter of uploading the form, as well as the customer authority form as well. So this is you getting the customer's permission to move numbers to Access4, and there is a template for this available on the Partner Resource Center. The order reference number is your internal reference number. So this will be your project ID or billing reference that you can put into this space here. And finally is the customer's address. So whether it's the same as the primary one from the enterprise or a different address for a different site, you will just need to put that information in here now. Next is our porting numbers. So at the top here, we'll be selecting what range we are selecting, whether it's a single 10 or 100 number range. And when we click add, that will add our direct indel box in here. And we just need to enter the first number of the range, and it will determine the last number. We will get you just to verify this as well to make sure we are moving the correct numbers across, just in case there is something iffy in the customer's current invoice or bill. Next is it a complex service? So this will determine if it's a Cat C. So anything more than 6 services is a Cat C already. However, these extra things, something like a Telstra dot service or a Tippet service, will also determine it being a Cat C. If you're not sure, we do recommend just selecting yes on this as well. And we can always fix it up down the track. Next is, are we doing an exchange-based diversion for this customer? Yes, no, or pending. So pending will be if it's already been put into the system, you've already requested the forward to our system services, but we just haven't set it up yet. So you can select that here as well, whether you want to do it or not. Importing numbers is selecting the numbers to be added to your inventory beforehand. This will be done before we've done any verification on the numbers, so we do request that if you are doing this, you make sure you have the correct numbers in there, as if the wrong numbers have been entered into the inventory, we may have to remove them to be able to fix that up down the track. And finally is the corresponding date. So if there's a specific date you're trying to reach, you can enter that here. Otherwise, the as soon as possible button is there as well. This would be as soon as we can book in for that to happen, or TBA. So if you just want the numbers in the inventory so you can start processing them and start provisioning. However, you don't know when the customer wants to move their numbers across yet, we do give you that availability as well. When you do select this as well, there is also a specific time request for the port as well. So if you're trying to match a certain time in the day, that can be selected here as well. If there is not a certain time, to select no. For today, we'll just do it as soon as possible, get the porting team to action this as soon as they can to book this in. Next is any comments. So any comments you want to leave for our porting team, any concerns there may be on the services, any questions you have. If you want the port to happen outside business hours, we do recommend just putting them in as comments here, and this will get them, and our porting team will get back to you about any questions you have with these. And finally, there's just a review. So this is just confirming that all the details you put in previously, as well as just confirming that you do have that letter of authority. So if you haven't uploaded it, we'll just prompt you to hit the checkbox there as well. Finally, when we hit finish, that will upload the porting order into our system, and our porting team will take it from there.
Thanks, Mitch, and we'll flick on to requesting new DIDs.
Today, we're also announcing some changes to our new DID request form via SASBOSS. At the top, we still have our reseller dropdown, so selecting yourself as a reseller or one of your sub resellers if they are applicable as well. Next, we've created an allocate to enterprise button as well. With this, it gives you a dropdown where you can search for your customer's enterprise. In here, select the customer, select which group you wish to assign the number to as well. And that means rather than allocating it just to yourself into your inventory, it will allocate directly to that customer's enterprise. Next is our number type. So what kind of numbers we wish to order. Today we're just looking at Australian standard numbers, but we do have our full list of international numbers in here as well. What the group size looks like. So today we'll just order a single group. With this, we still get our prompt saying if we're ordering multiple, they may not be in a range. We do suggest ordering a group of 10 if you wish to get a certain number of numbers in a range. Next is our quantity. So how many of those numbers we wish to order. If I look at 5, it tells you we're going to be ordering exactly 5 numbers. If I change the group size to 10, for instance, it's telling us that we're ordering a total of 50 numbers. So it will update that as you change it. Next is our address. Same as previously, type in the customer's address that the numbers are for, and it's going to use this, does the search, and we're using this to find numbers for that region. Next is the number pattern. We've made some changes to this as well. From the drop down, it's going to ask you how you want the numbers to appear. So it's going to start with 613, and then your pattern after that somewhere. It just contains or ends with, so where you want those number pattern to be. And then of course, your actual number pattern you're trying to get in there as well. Next is the order reference number. So this is once again your project ID or billing reference number that you can add in there, as well as any notes you wish to add to this order as well. If we hit search numbers, it's going to do a lookup for those 5, 10 number ranges, same as our old system used to as well. Once it does that lookup, it's going to display the numbers available to you. Now the numbers are available. You can see exactly which numbers we have assigned, we can allocate right now. And at the end there, it does also give us an expiry. So these numbers are reserved by you as a reseller until that expiry time. Select the checkboxes of which ones we want. In the dropdown, select which product we wish to assign to them as well. And finally, what am I saying? Oh,
all right, sorry. Just need to click that over. So an important note about what Mitch just showed there is around the integrated public number database. So there was a section where he put in the address for the number. So I know at times people put in the address of themselves as a partner or that sort of thing. you can't do that due to the fact that emergency services won't be able to find where that number is. So say, for example, if it's a workplace, we need the address of that workplace. If it's a person's home, as an example, we need that person's home, because if they call 000 from that number, they won't be able to, the emergency service won't be able to find the address for that number. They'll come to your office because of the fact that you've put in your office number for that particular number. So it is vitally important you put in the address of where that number is going to reside, so that when emergency services get a call, they know where to go and be able to help the person who's in trouble. So some PRC links are just added there for IPND, and they're very good read on how to check for your customer's IPND, but also how to update the IPND where needed. So on to the next Access to Text session content. Oh, I've spelled content wrong there. I've done well. So what we wanted to do was do a quick poll on what you would like to see in the next sessions of Access to Text. So we've got a few products there, so please click through on multiple choice of the ones that you'd like to select and have a look at. But it's really important to us that we get from you the feedback as partners on what you would like to see in those next sessions. We've got a roadmap of what we will present a few things, but we'd like to see the other things that you would like to see as well. So please answer the poll, and we'll collate it together and get that information. So that's pretty much it for Access to Text. So over to question time now. So we've got quite a few questions here. So Mitch and Luke, it might be worth you jumping in here to answer some of these questions if possible that came through. So I'll just go back through. So we've got one. How can we tell if a number is with Telstra if our client is using a third-party company? If there is a way we can check the carrier a CLI is assigned to.
Typically, if it is coming from another provider that isn't Telstra, you'll notice that. Okay, I'll put it in there.
There, mate.
Yeah. So yeah, so if it's coming from a third-party provider that is not Telstra, typically what you will find on the invoice is the product names are relatively the same. However, you can't really guarantee that it's going to be showing just the same. So in which case you can submit the port and wait for the validation to go through, or you can have a chat to our porting team who may be able to help you through that process to understand if it is a Telstra-based service.
Cool. Thanks, Ben, for that question. So Jason from Mobile how are the CLI changes carrier specific to Telstra or are they all carriers? So Telstra specifically are making these changes. All carriers will make their own changes, but at the moment, the ones that we're talking about here are specific to Telstra, the way that they're handling the changes. But other carriers will do it, but they're doing it more aligned to the way that the code is set up so that it's not as impactful on the industry. I don't know if you want to add any more to that, Luke.
No, it's pretty much Telstra will be the main group enforcing it. But the other groups will be having their own rules in place, similar to this one.
Yeah. So Robert, just with the acronym, that's Technical Assistance Centre. So where you put support calls to. So if you log in. Patrick Allen, if you're doing an EBD, the porting does not get verified until the porting request has been submitted after the EBD has been set. However, with Fastport, we would need the numbers in SASBOSS and routable prior or right on the time.
So yes, you can. So the numbers can still be in SASBOSS prior to the port being done. You can provision the real numbers. You'd apply a fake number as needed. You can use the EBD to redirect the calls, or sorry, the Fastport to redirect the calls into Access4. However, whilst if calls are to be made outside, you'll still have to show the fake number until the port has been verified by Telstra.
Right. It appears there are no other questions.
There are a few more questions.
You got a few more questions? Okay, cool.
Yep. On the list of products that we just said about for the next Access to Text, Go Integrator was not on the list. It is still going to be one of our products. We are already releasing an update to Go Integrator sometime this month, which will be going out. So there'll be more information coming out about Go Integrator very shortly.
Yeah, so that should be coming out actually over the next couple of days, and the product will be going from a Go integrated to a Go Kara model.
Any other questions direct to you two at all?
It'd be great if we get a list from Access4 of any endpoints still connecting with legacy application. Luke, I'll leave that one for you. I don't believe we can get that information, can we?
So if you're talking about things like Go integrated, particularly, like legacy application, because that will become a legacy going to Kara.
I'm thinking more Connect and the legacy applications we're end of life and replacing with Webex.
Okay, so within SASBOSS on the services screen, you can do a filter based on a service pack, and that'll show you all the end services that have those packs still connected to them, which you can export to Excel, and then you'll have a list of all your endpoints that are still connected with legacy products. So once again, services on the left-hand side, at the top for filtered by service pack type.
For Webex, any plans on migrating contacts automatically from the old Webex old application to Webex? Unfortunately, we are unable to do that. The way the existing applications store those contacts is encrypted, and Cisco did not provide us a way of getting those contacts out of the old application, unfortunately. In terms of dummy numbers, will this mean we need to purchase a temp DID for each enterprise so they can call out?
Well, if they want to be able to make calls out ahead of time prior to the numbers being verified, you will need to have one of these on hand. So if you have a customer who's maybe doing something like a Teams appointment with maybe 300 or 400 different users, you can still just use the one group number as a dummy CLID to actually compensate that rather than doing one for one.
We got one from Lewis. Or will there be dummy numbers available to partners for this? This will Access4 make dummy numbers available, or are we to manage this on our own ad hoc basis?
So that will be up to yourselves as partners to manage those numbers.
There is an option when you do provision a service, if you do decide to put it against a end service hunt group or something like that, it's called a pre-port box. There's a checkbox there where you can actually apply it. And then post-porting, you can untick that box and it will strip that dummy number off, which is already in there in SASBOSS on a form already.
Another one here. Will there be any issues porting to Telstra from Access4 in relation to Telstra CLI changes?
Porting to Telstra?
Yeah.
Yes. No, there'll be no change around that process at all. Is there any confirmation when BLF will be introduced into Webex? We do not have a time frame for that at this stage, unfortunately. We are trying to chase Webex for that information, and as soon as we know more, we'll let you know.
I think that's all of the questions. Hang on, maybe one more. Will the CLID authorized process be removed? Would there be any more need for it?
I would say that at this point, that process will probably be removed in coinciding with the change when Telstra go through.
With the move to Webex, is there any way to submit ongoing bugs? It will just go through our tech team. They are aware of a few issues which they have ways to work around for. However, if we see large ongoing things, we will escalate to Cisco directly. There is also a known issues register available on the PRC as well, which is kept up to date by our engineering team. So that is also a good place to look at if you are getting some support calls.
Any more questions? All right. we'll move on because I'm mindful of the time. So last but not least, the winner of the DJ Mini SE drone is
Colin McKenzie.
Colin McKenzie. So thank you everyone for joining us. We will be planning the next Access to Techs early April. So please join us then. But thank you very much for your attendance and your questions. If you do have any follow-through questions, please send them through to the team. Thank you very much for your time.